which means body is not as good at taking food and turning it into fuel and more likely to store it as fat. Does a deficit matter? Absolutely. But what matters most is what is your body doing with those calories? Because what your body is being told to do with those calories is to store it instead of to burn it. How do we speed up calorie burn over 40? You don't have a calorie in, calorie out problem. You have a calorie utilization problem. Have you ever felt like your body just sucks at burning calories? Like your body just takes food and decides to store it as fat instead of using it as fuel? That is exactly what we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about the 5 ways to increase calorie burn to lose fat in perimenopause and menopause and the years that follow. Before we dive into that today, I do want to mention that, the holiday season is upon us, and we are bringing back our 14-day mini challenge to help you stay on track without feeling ashamed and being able to actually have your favorite treats. It is super simple. It is not time consuming. It's just 14 days to really set yourself up for a great 2026 rather than having to lose the 5 to 10 pounds that women typically gain over this holiday season. You'll get easy to follow workouts for all fitness levels. You'll get a travel workout as well. Simple habits to help you navigate the holidays, a private group chat and community, calls for extra support, some of our favorite recipes, and so much more. Plus, for joining, you'll also be entered to win a Starbucks gift card, an Amazon gift card, 12 months of exercise programming, a 12-week custom macro nutrition plan, and so much more. And that starts on December 8th. So if you want details on that and want to sign up, it will be in the show notes for you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast, where we help you understand this new body of yours. Maybe you started to experience hormonal symptoms, maybe you're post-menopause, but we know now that those old fat loss strategies just are not cutting anymore, and it is time to learn how to work with this new body instead of against it, so you can open up those fat burning pathways, get your energy back, and feel confident again. Okay, so to the calorie burn. First of all, let's talk about why calorie burn slows down after 40, or why it seems like our body just sucks at burning calories. Because let's be honest, it sucks. We don't love it. And so the first thing that we want to look at is, of course, our hormone shifts. That's the first thing that we typically start to talk about, because estrogen, your thyroid, your progesterone, they all start to drop. And what happens is this results in slower cell energy production. So your body is not as good at taking that food that you consume, the calories that you eat, and turning it into fuel. And this is where a lot of people fail with the whole calories in, calories out, because sure, you're eating less food and moving more, but if that's not working, that tells me your body isn't using those calories very well. Why is your body storing all those calories, even though you're not having that many, and putting it into fat? Why is that happening? And so we have to understand that thyroid starts to slow down in perimenopause and menopause, especially if we're low carb, especially when fasting for a long time, lots of stress, go, poor sleep, history of chronic dieting. What happens is our thyroid production starts to slow down. So we have less T4, which is kind of like, when you're getting an e-transfer or a Venmo, and it's like in space for a little bit, like a check is waiting to clear, and it's in space, it's not in your bank account right away. So it's not usable. It's there, but we can't access it yet. Our body needs to convert that into T3, into the usable form of thyroid hormone, which would be usable cash in your bank account. And with that usable cash, now we can use it, right? We can go buy stuff. And so if we have enough of this T3, this cash, it's like a lock that fits into the key that turns on, hey, let's take food and turn it into energy. We're using it for fuel, so now we're not tired, but also we're less likely to store that food as fat. And so this is one of the things that we see happen to a lot of women in perimenopause and menopause. This is why TSH and T4 testing is not enough. We need to know how much usable keys and cash do you have to actually unlock that fat burning pathway. We know estrogen is going to have lots of effects here as well. When our estrogen starts to decline, we become more insulin resistant, which means our body is more likely to get stuck in that storage state, which tells our body we have enough, let's store. Even though you're eating less and moving more. Progesterone is also going to influence this, where now we have a lower stress threshold. So before we could be a 5 out of 10 on the stress scale, a 9 out of 10 on the stress scale, before we start to see things get not so great. sleep gets worse, energy gets worse, can't build muscle, blood sugar gets worse, hormone production gets worse, gut health gets worse. Before we go into the 5 things that can help speed up calorie burn, I think it's really important to understand why that calorie burn starts to slow down after 40. Because we know your hormones are going to start shifting 35, 40, 50, 60, and it does things to your body that makes it feel like it's just holding on to every calorie for dear life, and that makes weight loss feel almost impossible, right? And so we need to acknowledge that estrogen, thyroid production, and progesterone production are all going to slow down. Women are 8 times more likely than men to develop hypothyroidism. And what this means is your thyroid produces less hormones, but also we see conversion issues in a lot of women. So your thyroid's going to produce T4, which is kind of like, when someone pays you with a check, I know those times are not very common anymore, but it still does happen sometimes. And it's just kind of in this space where it's says you're in your account, but you can't use it yet. That's like your T4. And then your T3 hormone is actual usable cash in your account that you can go shopping with. Yay, we love that, right? Pay our bills, all the things. And so we have to acknowledge that T3 starts to decrease. The conversion typically tends to slow down. There's less T4 even available, so less money coming in, and then actual less usable cash. We want that usable cash because it's almost like that cash is a key, and it'll stick into the receptors in the lock and turn it, which tells your body, oh, we can take those calories and use it for energy. So now we have energy to do things and we feel amazing, which is fantastic, versus when we don't. And we see that this conversion and the thyroid production starts to decrease with stress, low calorie diets, fasting, low carbohydrate diets, not getting enough sleep when we're go all the time. And we see this really gets amplified as we start to age and our hormones start to decrease, because now we have this area where, we used to be able to handle a 9 out of 10 on the stress scale before we started to see cortisol go up. And we know if cortisol goes up, it slows down your thyroid, which means body is not as good at taking food and turning it into fuel and more likely to store it as fat. And so that happens so much more easily during perimenopause and menopause because our threshold decreases. So instead of a 9 out of 10, which is where we most of us are living, if not higher, let's be honest, now it only takes a 5 out of 10. So the things that, you used to be able to handle and it wasn't stressful for your body now is. You may not have changed anything, but internally things have. And this is where we see a lot of the whole calories in, calories out thing really drive me crazy. Because yes, does a deficit matter? Absolutely. But what matters most is, what is your body doing with those calories? Is it turning it into fuel or storing it as fat? You can have 2 people who had the same diet and one person does really well and one does not. Or you did a diet once and now you're doing it again, but it's not working this time because what your body is using and doing with those calories is very different. We also have to acknowledge that when estrogen and progesterone go down, it's hard to build muscle mass. And so we start to see muscle mass start to decrease, which means we become more insulin resistant. It means that we are struggling with our calorie burn, because the more muscle mass you have, the more calories you burn at rest, which is great. We love that, to burn more calories without having to change anything. Wonderful, just by existing. We love that for us. But we need to acknowledge that, your hormones are going to dictate a lot of how your body functions and why your hormones are fluctuating, perimenopause and menopause, but other things are going to influence it as well. And so what we find is too, with estrogen decreasing, you become more insulin resistant, which pushes you into that storage pathway, telling your body, we have enough, let's store, even though you're eating less and moving more and doing all of the right things, because what your body is being told to do with those calories is to store it instead of to burn it, which is obviously going to make weight loss very challenging and weight gain a lot easier, which is, we want the opposite of that, right? So your body starts burning fewer calories. And it's not because you're lazy. It's because it's getting missed signals, whether you're stressed out, you're not sleeping enough, we're not eating enough foods, we're, just have a system where our fat burning pathways are blocked and our hormones play a large part in that. And so how does your body actually burn calories and where does it go wrong before we go into how to fix these things? So there's 4 main things that burn calories in our body, 4 categories. Number 1 is your BMR, your metabolism, your basal metabolic rate. Those are used interchangeably all the time. And this is how many calories your body burns at rest. When you're sleeping, doing nothing, just resting. This is the energy your body uses to, create your hormones, to keep your nervous system working, to keep your brain alive, keep your heart pumping, your lungs breathing, your basic, what your body burns at rest. And so for myself, I had a test done, my DEXA, and it told me that I burned almost 1,500 calories at rest. It was like 14 something. So no wonder that if I'm eating less than that, I feel like garbage, as I'm literally not giving my body enough fuel to just do everyday things. Because if I'm getting less than that, I don't have enough energy that I need just to sleep all day. I'm not sleeping all day. I have a toddler, right? You are running around. You have your career. You're also exercising. You're doing so much and expending so much energy because you're on all the time, right? Us women are always on, always giving. Someone always needs something from us, right? And that's not a terrible thing. That's fine. But we need to understand that that requires energy. And so if we're eating below our BMR, cortisol goes up, inflammation goes up. We see that blood sugar control gets worse, hormone production declines, we start losing muscle mass, energy gets worse, and all this ends up blocking our fat burning pathway, pushing us into that storage state, telling our body we have enough, let's store. And so our basal metabolic rate is what keeps us, how many calories our body burns at rest, but also it accounts for like 60% plus of your calories out in a day. So most of your calories out in a day has nothing to do with your workouts or anything like that. It has to do with how well your body burns calories at rest. So that's the thing that we're always going to want to improve first, because, if it's going to be 60 out of 100, we increase that by even 2%, we're going to see a way bigger calorie burn than if we improve a category that's only a 5 out of 100, right? 5%. Then we have the thermic effect of food. This is how many calories are burned through digestion. And this can be, 20, 30%-ish, depending on, again, everything else. Then we have our exercise activity, which is calories burned through your specific workouts. This is about 5 to 10% a day. Like it's not very much. That's only on the days that you work out. And so a lot of us try so hard to work out really hard and increase calorie burn in our workouts. Well, it's only like 5% of your day, because the exercise watches that you have, the Apple watches and the Oura rings and all those things, they can be off for calculating your calorie burn by up to 200%. They had a whole podcast on fitness watches. And this is why we don't like to use those to determine how much you should be eating, because they're wildly inaccurate. There was a Harvard study, and the Harvard researchers were actually quoted in it that they were astounded at just how wildly inaccurate they were when they actually measured with the gold standard. And then we have non-exercise activity. This is your daily movement throughout the day. This would be walking. This would be gardening. If you have a physically labor-intensive job, then it would go from, 10% to potentially 50%. If you're a mail carrier or carpenter, things like that, where you're moving all the time, then that's going to have a bigger percentage of your calorie burn, obviously, if you have a very physically active career. And so most women try to increase calorie burn from their workouts by running and doing all these HIIT workouts and stuff, when if you increase 5% by like 1, that's going to be so tiny increase in calorie burn. Whereas if we focused on non-exercise activity or your metabolism, and we increase that 60% by, 2 to 3%, that's a much bigger increase in calories out in a day compared to focusing on your exercise. And so how do we speed up calorie burn over 40 to, really improve the areas that are going to be the most bang for your buck, to get your body to stop holding on to those calories and start using them for fuel instead? So number one, this is one that typically comes up a lot, which is rebuilding muscle mass. That is your metabolic engine. And it matters because about each pound of muscle is going to burn 6 to 10 times more calories than your fat, even at rest. And so as estrogen drops, we know muscle mass starts to deteriorate. Our muscle building signal goes down, our muscle breakdown signal goes up. And this means that at rest, if we lose muscle mass, our body is going to burn less calories at rest, bringing down metabolism. So what we want to do to really make sure that we are improving that is 1, strength training full body 2 to 3 days a week using progressive overload. And what this means is every Monday looks the same. Wednesday is different than Monday, but every Wednesday looks the same. Every Friday looks the same. And you're doing that for 4 to 6 weeks. And we are tracking the weights that we are using and trying to lift heavier. If you can lift 2 reps above that rep range, you need to up your weights or slow down the movement, increase your range of motion in order to stimulate that muscle building signal. Because if I'm doing bicep curls with 10 pounds every day, nothing's going to change because my body can easily do that. So there's no reason for my body to put on muscle mass. If I am lifting 20 pounds and my last rep is like not so great, it's really challenging, I definitely could not do one more, my body goes, dang, muscle tissue broke down a bit, so now we're going to repair it in recovery. But now it's going to overcompensate, try and build up more so I can meet the demand that I'm putting on my body. And so if I'm doing this week to week, my body goes, dang, we need to build up this bicep because Stephanie keeps trying to lift this weight and like she can't do it. Like we're getting to this almost failure point. And so that's going to send that signal to my body to adapt and build muscle mass. So this is where you have to have that same program for like 4 to 6 weeks so that you can actually consistently challenge that muscle to send that signal consistently enough, often enough, that it forces your body to change. This is why, the fitness classes and Pilates and things like that, they don't build muscle mass because we're never stressing the tissue hard enough and challenging it hard enough where we're hitting that threshold where it forces your body to adapt. Doing compound lifts where you are doing things like squats, lunges, deadlifts, rows, push-ups, chest press, choosing those over endless cardio and using machines. If you can leg press heavier than you can squat, start there. We want to maximize that muscle building signal. It's great to work those in, absolutely, right? Because we're going to see more functional health. That's just going to help you get up and off the toilet when you're 80, 90, 100, right? We don't want someone to help us. We want to maintain independence as much as we can. But those exercises are very important, but this is where utilizing those machines is not a bad thing, especially if you're someone who's worried about, injury, because we know that those machines are safe, they're controlled. And so you can do that with a little less fear, a little bit more comfort. We want to hit a muscle group like 2 times a week at least, but allowing at least like 48 hours in between sessions. 36 hours is good too, but we need to have that adequate recovery so the muscle can build in between. And in order to build muscle, we need to make sure we're getting adequate amounts of protein. If we don't get enough protein, we literally do not have the building blocks to build the muscle mass. So it's like trying to build a brick house without the bricks. You don't get very far. And so we need to have adequate amounts of protein, aiming for 0.8 grams per pound of body weight-ish. Increase slowly, because if you go from 60 grams today to 100 grams tomorrow, I promise you will not poop. It is harder to digest, and so you'll end up bloated and constipated, so you need to increase slowly. Usually about 10 to 15 grams a week is what I aim for. Okay, perfect. So if you want to burn more calories, just sitting on the couch, one of the best things that you can do is put on muscle mass. Number 2, which is the one that scares people the most, is eating more but strategically. And you probably have heard us talk about this on Seasons of Simple Fat Loss. We've talked about reverse dieting, phases of fat loss. And why this matters is when we talk about that T4 to T3 conversion, right, where we have less keys going into the lock to turning on fat burning. When we chronically undereat, it takes away those keys that turn on fat burning. And in fact, almost puts a shield up called reverse T3. So the keys that you do have can't even go in the locks. We also see it's going to raise your cortisol, increase your inflammation, lower your hormone production. So your symptoms get worse. Motivation goes down. Energy gets worse. Sleep gets worse. You become more insulin resistant. And all of that pushes us into that fat burning or that fat storage state, blocking our fat burning pathway, telling our bodies we have enough, let's store. This has happened to me every single time I've dropped my calories below 1,600. Every single time. I've documented this on my social media too and shown some pictures and stuff because I was at a place where I was trying to work out a lot. I was eating less than 1,600 calories and I started gaining weight. like pretty quick. I was feeling very swollen and puffy. My sleep went to crap. I was having hormonal symptoms again. And so I started increasing my calories the right way and actually pulled back my exercise completely for 6 weeks to really reduce stress off my body to allow myself to recover. Inflammation dropped and I lost 7 pounds real quick. It was fantastic. But this is understanding the impact of what those stressors are on your body and how too much stress can really prevent you from losing weight and actually cause you to gain weight in the long run. And so when we are someone who's potentially eating less than 1,600 calories like I was, what we want to do is we want to increase very slowly because there's a lot of nuance to this depending on the person and, where your inflammation is at, how your liver detoxification is, where your hormones are, your lifestyle, your sleep. There's so many things that we need to consider here. And so when we are increasing our calories, so if you've been eating 1,600 calories or less and we need to increase it, you can book a consultation call with us. We'll actually help you figure out how many calories you should be eating. We do that completely for free, so you can book that in the show notes as well. But what we like to do is increase calories slowly. I like to be more conservative, so increasing by like 50 to 100 calories every week, every other week, depending on the person, so we can really monitor how your body adjusts. And we are typically going to increase this from protein and complex carbs. So we're looking at, your potatoes, your whole grains, your whole wheat rice or brown rice, looking at, fruits, your veggies. That's where most of your carbohydrates are going to come from. And then from protein as well. And so we're going to increase that slowly. And, we need to see how your body responds because for some people, when we're increasing calories, if you have a very inflamed body or your liver isn't functioning well or you have a highly triggered immune system where your body puts up the guards pretty quick, where it's threat, and your body just can't utilize those calories very well, then we start worrying about, weight gain. And so this is where doing this slowly is definitely the right way to go. That means it takes us longer to get into fat loss sometimes, which people don't love, but this is the way to speed up your metabolism. And so I'm going to use my hands here. So if you're on YouTube, this will be a lot easier. I think we have video on Spotify as well. If you're on Apple Podcasts, go to YouTube. I don't know what to tell you. So let's say that your metabolism, where how many calories your body should burn at rest, should be, let's say, 1,800 calories. Let's say that. But you've chronic dieted for a long time, so you're eating below that. Okay, so your metabolism is always going to try to match calories in, calories out. That's how our body was designed, so we do not die. It is a very great system, but annoying when we're trying to get ready for bikini season. So we have calories lower than that, and so our metabolism starts to slow down. And it creeps down, creeps down, creeps down. Now our maintenance is 1,600 calories. And take another diet, drop down, metabolism comes down, comes down, comes down. But then we get to that point that, remember I told you, where now it's below that BMR. Cortisol goes up. We start seeing more inflammation, worse blood sugar control. We start gaining weight at this lower calorie intake. And a lot of people just want to, boom, jump up to, their 1,800 or whatever it might be. However, your metabolism is still down here at like 1,400 to 1,500 calories. And so what we need to do is increase slowly. So we're staying in that maintenance range. So we're seeing minimal, if any, weight gain. And you're increasing your calories slowly. Your metabolism comes up with it. When we increase calories again, we're still in that maintenance, just the highest end of your maintenance. Your metabolism comes up. And so we keep creeping it up till we kind of get to that threshold of, okay, this is good. This is where we want our metabolism to be, which is fantastic. And so you're eating more food without gaining weight. Some people lose weight, which is fantastic. And so your body is learning to take those calories and use it for fuel, which is fantastic. And now we have room to drop down to see fat loss, but we're not going to stay there forever so that we don't have that metabolism come back down again. And so we want to increase slowly. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is focusing on balanced meals. We want to make sure there is protein on that plate, there is some color, there is some fiber, having some healthy fats, and we're eating like every 4 to 5 hours. So we're waking up and having breakfast, and then we're waiting 4 hours, having our lunch, waiting 4 hours, having our lunch, or dinner, and we can have, a snack in there in between if we need to. But when we're looking at our meals, we want to eat most of our protein and veggies first. This will help stabilize your blood sugars, your cravings, your energy, the brain fog will improve. It's a win-win all the way around. And so what we're going to see is you want to eat most of your protein and veggies first before dipping into your carbs. So if I'm having breakfast, I'm having my eggs and turkey sausage before dipping into my toast, at least most of it. I might have like a breakfast bowl where I have, maybe some ground beef in it with some scrambled eggs over some potatoes or rice, toss in some veggies in there, some tomato, onion, whatever it is. And so I eat some of the egg and protein options first before dipping into the potatoes or rice. If you're having a lasagna, let's say, you're not going to eat out the meat first and then, have the pasta. Have a side salad first. Have some veggies and dip first. Have a little bit of meat first. Whatever it is, just ask yourself, how can I add some protein or veggie first before I dip into my carbs? Keep it super simple. We want to make sure that we are not skipping breakfast. We are eating breakfast within 60 minutes of waking. It makes it easier to eat food so that we're not trying to squish everything in a smaller eating window, especially if you're someone who is struggling to get protein already. Not having breakfast makes it really hard. Protein is very filling. And so if we have to cram all our protein within 2 meals, it's very, very challenging. And then we also just want to track how your body's responding. So we're not just looking at our calories. We're not just looking at weight. We're looking at how's your energy? How's your sleep? Your mood and digestion, because those things will always change before we start seeing things physically. And so we know if those things improve for the positive, we are moving in the right direction, which is fantastic. And again, that's going to help you burn more calories at rest so you can drop calories and be in a deficit where it's not going to have negative effects on your body and you start gaining weight. Number 3, which is the most important one, this is the one that if I do not address this, it does not matter where my calories are at, I am gaining weight. We're seeing no progress and it's super frustrating. This is the thing that we see hold a lot of women back, which is stress and cortisol. And so cortisol is the hormone that provides us with energy. And it's really great in times of fight or flight where, if you're hiking and a bear jumps out, it gives you energy to fight the bear, run away from the bear. I'm going to run away from the bear, but, you hear stories. And so it provides with the energy, which is fantastic. But we are living in a day and age where our body is stressed all the time because a stress is when we are on. As women, we are on all the time. Family, kids, spouse, work. We're also trying to maintain relationships. Some of them, we've got the financial stresses and we've got, deadlines at work and one guy at work that just gets under our skin that we just cannot handle. And we have all of these things that we are just stressed all the time. So cortisol is chronically elevated, constantly providing us with energy. And you know how it does that? It tells your liver to dump sugar into your bloodstream. So even though you are eating less and maybe you're avoiding carbs, maybe you're even fasting, your blood sugars will go up because cortisol will dump sugar into your bloodstream. This is how we see women become insulin resistant despite the fact they're eating quote unquote clean and they're not eating that much because of the stress response. When that happens, it pushes us into that fat storage state, telling our body we have enough left to store. And remember, as we go through perimenopause and menopause, it's a lot easier for this to happen compared to before. So what used to be quote unquote normal for us is now too much. And it's so frustrating. I get that because, I've been there where it's like, I used to do everything. I could champion anything. I was the woman who had everything on her plate, was always go, 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 was in the gym, like doing everything. And I can't do that anymore. And is that frustrating? Yes. But also this season of life teaches you what's really important. Boundaries, what to actually say yes to, what to say no to, helps you reprioritize, but it forces you to take care of yourself. Because for many of us, we haven't done that for a very long time. And so how do we deal with this? Because let's be honest, we can't remove stress from our life completely. That's not realistic. It doesn't happen, right? And sometimes the things that stress us out, we love, like podcasting. I freaking love this. Speaking at events, I love it. But my lovely Oura ring will tell me, ooh, you're stressed, girl, because I am giving. That is a stress to our body. And so I need to counteract those things. So how do we do this? Because as women, it's very hard. And some of us feel like we thrive in the chaos a little bit, right? Like I'm a little gross that way, or I'm like, we'll build the plane while we're flying it. Like I'm that kind of person. And so how do we manage this? One is that we have to actually take time to force our body out of fight or flight. And this is anything that will help us slow down our heart rate and breathing rate. Whoever focuses on that during their day? I never used to. And so for me, this is time in prayer. For me, it's reading my Bible, doing a devotional, journaling. I do feet up, so laying on the floor, feet up on the wall. That brings blood flow from your legs back to your gut to help with digestion, but it lowers your blood pressure, lowers your heart rate, lowers your breathing rate, which all pull you out of that fight or flight state, allowing cortisol to come down. So pairing that with deep breathing is great. Maybe it's doing some box breathing, and it doesn't have to be this like super long calming routine because I ain't got time for that. And neither do you. Let's be honest. I hate when you see those stupid morning routines on Instagram of like this hour-long routine. I'm like, do you have children? Do you have a career that's demanding? Like, ain't no one got time for that. And so it might just look like 2 minutes before you go on your lunch break. You just turn off your computer, put your phone down, and just breathe. Do 8 slow, deep breaths of breathing in for 8 seconds, hold, out for 8 seconds, hold, and doing 8 breaths like that, or your box breathing, or whatever that looks like for you, getting your feet up. But taking these micro moments to remind your body, hey, we don't have to live up here in this high stress state anymore. We can bring that down. Other things are walking daily. Low intensity movement calms your nervous system. It also helps with lymph flow, which lowers inflammation, which will also lower your cortisol, which is a win-win-win all the way around, and help with digestion. And so walking daily, getting those 8,000 steps if you can, but start lower if you need to. Maybe for you, it just looks like, okay, before I walk into work today, I'm going to do a lap around the block. Keep it super simple. Before I walk into the house, I'm going to walk to the end of the street and back first. When I go to the grocery store, I'm going to do 1 extra lap around the grocery store before going back to the car. Get a walking pad for your desk. Whatever you need just to get a little bit more movement in can be really, really helpful. As much as I love you listening to the podcast, also trying to go for a walk without any AirPods in or headphones in, where you are not stimulated all the time. Because we're so conditioned to be like productive all the time. And it's actually not productive, and it's not great for our health either. The other thing to do is hydrate. We don't realize how much dehydration increases cortisol and inflammation in our body. And so this is where taking your body weight in pounds, dividing it by 2, that's how many ounces of fluid you should be aiming for a day. Yes, tea helps. I get that question all the time. It counts towards your fluid goals. Reducing caffeine, ideally having a cutoff time by 11 a.m., trying to stick to 1 cup a day at the max, not having that on an empty stomach, and avoiding high intensity exercise for a lot of women. For me, honestly, it will probably be a long time before I move back to the HIIT or really intense cardio, especially in the mornings, because that's when your cortisol is already higher. And so you don't want to elevate it even more. And so being strategic with where are you right now and what's too much for you. And a lot of us are like, oh, it's not too much. A lot of us are type A and it actually is too much. We just thrive on that high adrenaline junkie where we're just looking for that next cortisol high. And then just practicing pairing high stress tasks with something that had a little bit more recovery. So, maybe before we're, whatever it might be, going somewhere, hustling somewhere, going to the gym, stand outside in the sunlight for just a couple minutes. Go for a light walk before you go in. Doing something to slow you down a little bit. For me, I've been doing more creativity stuff because if you are creative, you cannot be in fight or flight and vice versa. If you are fighting or running away from a bear, you can't be creative. That's not a priority, right? We are only creative when we are in a relaxed state. And so this is where, I've been doing a paint by numbers. I swear the people messed up on it though. I will share stories on my Instagram for you later. But the colors are not right. You look at the picture on the box and I swear I've been doing it correctly. And then you look at my paint by numbers, the colors do not look the same. The sky looks green. I think someone messed up somewhere. Am I the best painter? No. But also there was a mix up here that he's not working in my favor or doing me, any good. But the act of the creativity and doing it is the whole purpose, but it will not be one that probably makes it to be hung up on my wall by any means. And so for myself, this is something that if I don't have this dialed in, it's typically a failed fat loss phase. To be honest, it is something that I cannot not prioritize. And it's frustrating because, you feel like you've done the work. You're like, okay, I had way more stress in my past and life is good now. I've done the therapy. I've found Jesus. I am in such a good place. But that doesn't mean much when your system is easily triggered. Because of that past history, your body puts up the sirens and alarm bells a lot quicker than someone who doesn't have that history. And this is where we really need to understand your body and what are the things that kind of trip that siren compared to others. Is for me, I can increase exercise intensity and I typically won't see negative side effects as much. If I drop my calories, my body puts up the alarm bells right away. And so it's understanding what is too much. For me, travel. Travel destroys my body. I cannot travel and work out. Does not happen. It is too much for me and I get bloated, I get inflamed, I start gaining weight, my sleep goes to crap. It's terrible. Which brings us to number 4, prioritizing sleep and recovery. So poor sleep is going to increase ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. It is going to lower leptin, which is the hormone that tells you that you're full and tells your body to burn fat. And all of that is going to drive those sugar cravings that we struggle with so much. And all of that is also going to influence how well your body burns calories, because if your body is able to sense leptin and there's enough leptin, it tells your body to burn calories. And so if this is down, we know that's going to have a negative side effect. We also know that one poor night's sleep can make you more insulin resistant the next day by up to 25%, causing your body to favor fat storage. And so sleep and stress are 2 super underrated pieces that we're looking at that can make your body better at burning calories or prevent you from losing fat. So how can we support sleep? Because let's be honest, most of us in this time of our life are struggling with sleep. So doing a bedtime routine, and not like this crazy long thing, but maybe it's just something to wind down. Maybe it's prayer, maybe it's reading, maybe it's doing a gratitude journal, whatever that might be. Maybe it's doing something creative like the painting, or, my mom used to do adult coloring books. Maybe it's knitting, crocheting, whatever that looks like for you. Turning off screens an hour before bed or wearing blue blocker glasses, that can help massively because the blue light will actually prevent your body from creating melatonin, which is your sleepy hormone, making it harder for you to actually fall asleep. And melatonin is a master antioxidant to help bring inflammation down. And we know if we're not producing enough of that, inflammation will block your fat burning pathway. Making sure we're avoiding caffeine past 2 p.m. Because we know that's going to, have a longer half-life in your body and affect your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. Avoiding alcohol or limiting it drastically because it might feel like it helps you fall asleep, but it actually decreases your sleep quality, which will then make you more insulin resistant the next day and also lead to fluid retention for up to 3 to 4 days afterwards, which is a lot. So again, really masking your ability to be able to lose weight. We also love recommending a bedtime snack for women. And this is because a lot of women, when you wake up at that, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. and you're wide awake, you're exhausted, but you cannot turn your brain down. Typically, it's because your blood sugar drops. And that means when your blood sugar drops, body goes, I need energy. Cortisol goes up. Cortisol is that adrenaline hormone, right? And so it provides you with energy, but it also wakes you up. So by having a bedtime snack with carbs and protein, which I know many of you are like, what? You want me to eat before bed and have a carb? Girl, you're crazy. Maybe, but this stuff works. And let me tell you why. So if you're having carbohydrate before bed, it lowers cortisol. It increases melatonin, that sleepy hormone, that antioxidant to help you fall asleep and stay asleep. By pairing that carbohydrate with a fat or a protein, it keeps your blood sugar stable so we're not seeing a spike and drop. It's a slight increase and then it maintains through the night, slowly comes down, and then cortisol will rise in the morning to wake you up. And so some of my favorite snacks are, popcorn with a piece of cheese. It only has to be like 100 calories, 200 calories, nothing crazy. It can be yogurt with a little bit of granola. It could be whole grain toast with peanut butter. This is a client favorite. You can even make those protein bites where it's like oats and peanut butter and chia seeds or whatever other goodies you can put in there. And so that will actually help you a ton. And having that about 45 minutes before bed is great. And then the classic advice of keep a cool, dark, quiet room, maybe have some white noise in the background. That's going to help your body recover and function better so that your body is better at taking food and turning it into fuel instead of storing it as fat. So it increases calorie burn the next day. And the last one, which is also very underrated, is supporting your mitochondrial health. And so we know mitochondria as, the powerhouse of the cells. You learn that in Biology 30, and it's true. They are what take food or calories and turn it into fuel and energy instead of your body being more predisposed to storing it as fat. And so we want to have lots of mitochondria, and we want to have healthy mitochondria. Mitochondria that are damaged, no bueno. That can lead to things like cancer diagnosis. We see disease progression. We do not want that. And so we want these little calorie burning factories to be amazing, and we want lots of them. So things that you can do to help support these are, 1, movement throughout the day. We don't want to be sitting for super long periods of time. Very challenging for us with desk jobs. This is where getting a walking pad or a standing desk, setting an alarm for every hour to do like 10 to 15 squats just to get some blood flow and movement going. Fantastic. Breathing deeply. This is where that deep breathing comes in. Oxygen helps fuel those mitochondria, which allows them to better use the food and calories coming in and turning it into energy versus storing it as fat. Eating an antioxidant-rich foods, rich diet, because this is going to help prevent your mitochondria from being damaged. This is going to come from things like different berries, citrus, leafy greens, foods that are high in omega-3s. They are all great options for helping support those mitochondria. Supplementing with vitamin B is fantastic. It's notoriously hard to absorb from our diet typically, so we typically recommend women take vitamin B. When we're looking at that, make sure you take it in the morning because it does increase energy and can negatively affect your sleep. It might turn your pee like a yellowy green almost. That's okay. It's just getting rid of excess. Nothing to worry about there. Magnesium also really helps their mitochondria. We typically recommend at least 400 milligrams at nighttime, as it also helps you with your sleep. But we know that with more stress and inflammation, it burns through magnesium way quicker. Most of us are depleted in magnesium, and our body would love to have more. And the other thing that helps mitochondria too is your creatine. Creatine can really help with energy production as well. You can include cold exposure or contrast therapy, like a cold shower, to help stimulate mitochondrial activity. This one I really struggle with. Cold showers are brutal, so I will actually just do like an ice pack on the back of my neck, and I find that works well, or on my chest, and I pair that with like feet up, doing deep breathing. Fantastic. Other things that you can do is getting sunshine in the morning. Sunshine in your eyes in the morning, even if it's not super sunny, just getting natural light in your eyes actually helps create new mitochondria. Strength training and building more muscle also increases mitochondrial density as well. And so those are all things that can really help your mitochondria work well, to protect them and to build more. So you have more places for your body to take calories and turn it into energy instead of taking calories and storing it into fat. Because when your mitochondria heal, you don't have to force fat loss as much. Your body can actually use those calories. It doesn't hold on to them with a death grip that it feels like it's happening all the time. And so when we're looking at, increasing calorie burn, there are a few things that you're going to want to avoid. One is overdoing cardio, especially fasted HIIT. If you are someone who's been struggling with weight loss for a long time, or you just feel like the things that you used to do just aren't working anymore, or you have extensive, history of dieting, if you're struggling with sleep and energy, these are all signs that your body is not good at producing energy and therefore is probably not good at taking food and turning it into fuel. More likely to store it as fat. So we want to watch that HIIT training. That doesn't mean you can't do it in the future. It doesn't mean you have to, never do cardio. But we do have to, be mindful of when it's appropriate for you to add in. And for some people, it just takes some time. We want to make sure that we are not doing super long fasts or skipping breakfasts, because again, we're already low energy. We want to avoid low protein diets or low carb diets. We need to make sure that we are not under recovering. You don't have to work out every day. For most people, that's actually ineffective. 2, 3, 4 days a week are fantastic. And then we want to make sure we're consistent with our calorie intake, going up and down in calories, doing 1,600 one day, 2,000 the next, 1,800 the next, 1,400 the next. That's a very big stress on our bodies. It doesn't know what to anticipate. Our bodies are just like toddlers. Toddlers thrive on routine. So do our bodies. And so we almost have to treat it that way. So when we're putting this all together, you don't need some crazy magic supplement. You don't need wild, punishing workouts that leave you super sweaty. Sweaty does not mean effective. Anyone can make a workout more sweaty. You just add some unnecessary burpees or jumping or running does not mean you're going to get the results that you want. Anybody can do that. You need to create an environment where your body is able to take those calories and use it for fuel instead of storing it as fat. And this is where understanding inflammation prevents that. Poor blood sugar control affects that. Our hormones are going to affect that. Our liver detoxification is going to affect that. Sleep, the kind of workouts, the types of foods that we're eating. For example, if you're eating 100 calories of protein, you'll burn about 30 to 35 calories in digestion. If you are eating, 100 calories in carbs or fat, you'll only burn about 10 to 15 calories. And so just by increasing more protein in your diet, you'll burn more calories. Same thing with fiber. If we're getting fiber from natural whole foods, our body will burn more calories trying to break that down compared to things that are highly processed like protein bars or anything like that that comes out of a box, a carton. Our body is going to absorb more of those calories compared to having the whole food equivalent. And so if you feel like you've been stuck and you're like, yes, my body sucks at burning calories. Yes, my body just takes every calorie and wants to store it as fat. You don't have a calorie in, calorie out problem. You have a calorie utilization problem. What your body is doing with those calories. And so ways to help improve that are 1, build muscle. 2, make sure you're eating enough calories strategically. Again, if you don't know how much you should be eating, book that consultation call and we can do that for you for free. Managing our stress and cortisol, making sure we're sleeping enough and getting adequate recovery between our workouts, and really focusing on creating more and healthier mitochondria. If you have questions, please book a consultation call. We will answer all those for you there for free. And of course, we do have that holiday challenge for 14 days where we teach you how to enjoy the holidays without gaining the average 5 to 10 pounds that most women put on in 2 months. And we all know how hard it is to lose 10 pounds. We don't want to add 10 more to where we already are. So I love you so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.